Yeah, I'll take on from there because there's an overlap. As Peter said, the Friends of War Memorial Park were created in 2006 as part of the successful application for a lottery bid to refurbish the park. £2.8 million of lottery money and something similar from the City Council was invested in the park over the period probably about 2008 to 2011. The Friends of the Park has a role to promote, develop and maintain War Memorial Park for the residents of Coventry and for visitors. We've undertaken practical horticultural and tree planting activities, produced tree and history trails, organised bat and bird watching activities and litter picking events. We've funded an outdoor fitness trail and part-funded improvements to the children's playground. We've organised annual children's craft events and until this year, Christmas carols in the park. Until last year, Christmas carols in the park. The Friends represent park users to the council and seek to ensure that the green flag status that the park achieved a few years ago is maintained by the City Council. The Friends themselves are a small community charity recognised by HMRC for charitable purposes, and we have a membership of about 50. The park itself, as Peter has said, he's described the history of it. Clearly, it's one of Coventry's most appreciated community resources, valued and loved by Coventrians. It's used by about 400,000 visitors in a normal year, by dog walkers particularly, casual walkers, serious runners, Nordic walkers, tot waddlers, footballers and foot golfers, cricketers, tennis players, bowlers, bat and bird watchers, skateboarders and orienteers. Of course, it's the venue for the Coventry Park Run each Saturday in normal times, which attracts hundreds of runners. The children's playground and summer splash and play attracts thousands during summer days, on those days when it's open anyway. Additionally, of course, the park is the venue for the annual Godiva Festival, which has been until recently the largest free family festival in the UK, which attracted in one year 148,000 people. As I said, the park normally attracts about 400,000 visitors, but research by Google in September last year, looking at the first lockdown, identified that on average, use in Coventry parks had gone up by 123% in the early months of last year. So clearly, in excess of 800,000 people could have been using the park in those in the first quarter of last year. The value of the War Memorial Park as a green lung to all Coventrians is quite obvious to see. The significance of the park is, as well as a community leisure resource, the War Memorial Park is special in that formal parks are rare as a form of memorial. And of those that do exist, War Memorial Park is one of the most significant in terms of its size and its longevity. And the War Memorial Park was designated in 2014 as the first park in trust, recognising the status of the park itself as a permanent war memorial. So that's a little bit of background, contemporary background. As far as the Friends of the Park go, coming up to the centenary in 2018, we realised that it was quite apparent that the council was indifferent to the upcoming centenary of the park. We, the Friends, felt that the centenary should be celebrated for itself as a significant milestone in Coventry's contemporary history, but also for the values of remembrance and commemoration embodied in a war memorial park. So we convened a group together to coordinate and schedule a programme of events to take place in preparation for and at the 100th anniversary of the park, which is the 9th of July 2021. Given the coincidence of the anniversary with the City of Culture, we've tried to facilitate relationships with City of Culture 21 and of course the City Council. In terms of the centenary celebrations, we've fixed on 5 principal activities. The first one was that the park itself contains 678 trees and commemorative plaques funded by families and friends of men killed in World War I and men and women who've died in armed conflict since. Yet the council was failing to maintain these. One of our members, Bob Bristow, surveyed all the trees, the plaques and the plinths that they're on across the park and established that 31 commemorative trees and 59 plaques were missing. We rather battled in the face of council indifference until we got support of local ward councillors in Earlston Ward, particularly Kindy Sandhu, as we threatened to go public with the apparent lack of concern that the council had to replace the missing trees and plaques as memorials in time for the anniversary. Fortunately, that's now resolved, and for the past couple of months, new trees and replacement plaques, and indeed some 20 or so found in a storeroom, have been appearing in the park. That work should be completed by the end of the planting season in March, and the war memorial should be cleaned in time for the centenary. We're researching some of the soldiers and civilians who are commemorated in the park for display at celebrations. We may also consider developing a plaques guide and tour brochure to raise awareness of the individuals commemorated in the park. Our second activity is a sensory garden. The Friends of the Park were aware from our contacts with the Samaritans, Grapevine, which is a mental health project, and the Coventry Centre for the Blind and Visually Handicapped, that apart from the Rose Garden, the park doesn't now have any self-contained intimate areas in which people can sit quietly and relax on their own or with others. So in December 2019, we bid for resources from the government's Pocket Parks Grant Fund for monies to create a sensory garden to be developed with our partners, Samaritans, Grapevine and the Centre. The Pocket Park within the park was approved within weeks and we were granted £6,000, to which we've added another couple of thousand. The Pocket Park has been designed by Howard Collison with the agreement of the park manager, Tim Fox, and work is currently underway on its creation in the fenced-off area adjacent to the aviary. The sensory garden will sit adjacent to a new Japanese garden, which has been funded by the Japanese Garden Society, 4 local schools led by Howes Primary School and the City Council. That's just been completed. It will be opened in July. And the Japanese Garden Society has added to our funds for the sensory garden. I'll just say a little bit from our bid about the sensory garden. The sensory garden will offer different things to different people. For some, it will be a restful sanctuary where people recharge their batteries and practice mindfulness. For others, it will be a place for sensory exploration and stimulation. The area in the vicinity of the aviary is an underused asset in the park, which has been left to decline and is in need of attention. In fact, the aviary buildings and cages were refurbished last year in 2019, and new bird stock was introduced. The sensory garden is going to consist of 4 raised beds with disabled all-round access, seating areas or benches for peace and reflection, and a gazebo for insect and wildlife-friendly scented climbing plants. The paths around the bed will have all-weather accessibility, and planting will include textured plants and herbs with scented plants underfoot to release fragrance when walked or wheeled over, and plants that attract insects and bees. The planting will be planned to meet the needs of people for social connection, for relaxation and sensory stimulation. We'll have seating which encourages socialisation as opposed to the traditional park benches. We want the space to be safe, attractive and comfortable for people to meet, to talk, to learn and to enjoy. So that's the sensory garden, which will be opened, we expect, on the 9th of July, on the Centenary Day. The third project that we have in train is something which we're calling the Commemorative Benches Social History Project. One of our members, Jenny Redshaw, has had discussions with a number of individuals and families who have donated a park bench in commemoration of a loved one, a parent or a friend. Those discussions have established, if people are interested in telling the stories of why and how they remember their loved one, or why the park was important to that loved one. We've got 20 families and friends in discussion. As an initial experiment, Coventry Radio carried stories of 2 of the benches and the person they commemorated on the 28th of December. We're currently working with an independent sound engineer on 2 more benches stories, and we'd like to make available the stories to the public, possibly via links to our website and possibly through CWR's involvement, including their broadcasts during the centenary year. CWR are interested, but can't currently record during the lockdown. We'd probably like to publicise the stories and the location of the benches where you can listen to the recordings throughout the park, with the production of a map, a guide and emblems on the benches. So that's the third activity, the Commemorative Benches and Social History project. The birthday weekend, the 9th, 10th and 11th of July, is something we've been having discussions with the City Council on for the last 12 months to acknowledge and celebrate the 100th birthday weekend. The Council have been very supportive, committed funds and staff time to developing many of the ideas that we've suggested to them, which might include a reenactment and rededication of the opening of the park by the Lord Mayor and the Bishop, a sports and social event with invited Coventry school children, including burying a time capsule, a fairground, a miniature railway, and heritage attractions, and an exhibition of historic and contemporary films and photos of the park. And of course, there'll be the opening of the sensory garden as well. We have a long list of over 30 organisations, local residents groups, choirs, skateboarders, sports clubs, cyclists, even a labyrinth maker who would like to get involved. So it could be a genuine community event. Unfortunately, we received last week some news that we were rather expecting but didn't really want to hear. Due to COVID restrictions, the Council is now unable to hold a 3-day event this July. However, in the hope that we wouldn't need it, we'd already been drawing up a plan B, which is intended to enable some celebrations to happen this year within social distancing restrictions, as we work towards something much bigger, possibly in July 2022, when things open up again. So the birthday weekend will happen in some form, but not as big as we hoped it would. that our fifth activity is a community challenge. During the centenary year, the Friends want to celebrate the many aspects of how Coventrians use the park. We've devised a community challenge that initially will focus on safe, socially distanced individual activities, but which could, in better, healthier times, lead on to group involvement of groups of friends, associations, clubs, workmates, etc. We're preparing to launch this community challenge in the coming weeks, so I'm not going to give you any more details about it, other than to say it's fun, it's shareable, it's social. It's open to individuals and eventually to groups of all ages, all abilities and interests throughout Coventry. We're now in discussion with the City Council over this fun, safe community challenge as the initial part of our Plan B for the centenary year. So we've been working at this centenary, celebrating the centenary of the park for the last couple of years. And of course, it's been severely affected by the COVID-19. The year itself was going to be the 9th of July 2020 to the 9th of July 2021, so ending with the centenary weekend. Now it looks as if we'll be running to an event which will be at the end of the centenary year in July 2022. COVID has slowed down our preparations. It's frozen funding opportunities. A whole series of funds that might have been available to small charities such as ourselves were closed down or diverted to COVID-related activities. And it's delayed decisions by us, by possible partners and funders, and of course the City Council. And unfortunately, it's led to abortive discussions with the Council and the City of Culture, and some early publicity that we made in December 2019 before COVID struck. And of course, as I've said, it's led to the abandonment of the well-developed plans for the centenary weekend. But nevertheless, we remain undaunted. We've been working at this for the last couple of years. We want the park centenary to be celebrated one way or another, and we shall make it happen. That's it. Thanks, John.